What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Comically Boston. Today's episode 104. It is Friday the 13th here in October. Feels like a perfect day. A windy little Friday. You know, leaves are falling. It's autumn. It's fall. It's got all the vibes you need. You just gotta light a candle, maybe a little joint, maybe a little blunt or something. You know, whatever your preference is. Put on a scary movie and sit down and relax tonight. I think that's the vibe. But last night, we had episode 2 of season 2 of Loki. It was titled Breaking Bad, but we'll get into that, and that will be the main topic of today's episode. But we will talk about some news real quick, some quick little details that came out over the last couple of days. First off, we just came off of Ahsoka, Star Wars TV show that was awesome, but we also knew who Ahsoka was. I know virtually nothing about this show, but it was rumored the other day in some interview that it was said by the Star Wars people that ACOLYTE is going to be the most adult of the Star Wars content that is out. So, for me, that's super exciting. You see this red lightsaber here, you see this girl. I know that the dude, Asian dude from Squid Game, he's going to be in the show. So I don't know much about the show. If you guys know anything about the ACOLYTE, comment below. I think it's also set like in the past a bit, you know, maybe even before the prequels, so it's not really going to be tied by Darth Vader or anything. So I kind of like it. It's going to be Star Wars. It's going to be kind of like Andor, but it's going to be its own thing in a different time period. I really like the expanded Star Wars universe. I really like how we keep getting more and more with the Mandalorian, with Ahsoka, like all that stuff's great. I'm a big fan of the Star Wars universe, and this looks like it's going to be even better. So shout out to the ACOLYTE. I think that's going to be a really good show. What else I think is going to be a really good show, but had a little bit of a hiccup this week. It was reported from Marvel Studios that Daredevil Born Again's writers and directors have been fired. So they came back after this strike, right? So they were all on the writer's strike, actor's strike. They came back and probably looked at what they had, and they weren't too happy, the previous writers and directors, and they said that it was garbage. It was reported that Daredevil, Matt Murdock, it was more like a legal procedural type of show, more like a Law and Order or an NCIS, where Matt didn't even get to suit up as Daredevil until the 4th or 5th episode, and I think they had 6 episodes, but they pretty much needed to reshoot all of the first 4 and rework it. So now they have gotten rid of the writers, they've gotten rid of the directors. They still have Charlie Cox as Daredevil, but they're gonna pretty much rework this whole thing. So I don't know. You know, a lot of Marvel drama's been going on lately since that writer's strike, and you know, I think it's going to be for the best, right? Like, it's going to cause a little bit of delay. Ironheart got moved back to 2025, so, like, there's going to be a delay, but it's going to be good. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be good overall for everything. Like, the strikes are bettering things, but they're also pushing things back a little bit, which for us fans sucks, but for the people working on it and for us in the long run, it's going to be better because we're going to get better quality stuff, better quality projects. They might be pushing everything back to give the VFX artists more time to be able to polish this stuff, make it look great, which is great. You know, like, we shouldn't have half-assed VFX. We shouldn't have stuff that was sped through just so we could get it earlier. No, we want the good stuff. So give them as much time as they need to give us a really good show in return. Daredevil Born Again was originally going to be 18 episodes. It's now going to be 2 seasons, I believe. I don't know if they're sticking with 18 episodes. Maybe they'll do 10 or 9 and 9 or whatever it will be. But I believe they're going to rework the first 4 episodes so that he suits up quicker. Because this is a reboot, right? Like, it is a Born Again show, so like it is a different version of the character, but we've also already gotten the character in the MCU in No Way Home as a lawyer as Matt Murdock, and then we also got him as Daredevil and Matt Murdock in She-Hulk. So, you know, you're giving him his own show. You're not going to have him suit up for 4 episodes. Like, sure, legal procedurals are kind of cool, fun shows, but they're not superhero shows. Like, it's Daredevil. Like, use the blueprint of what they did in the first 3 seasons on Netflix. I get it, it wasn't Marvel Studios, it wasn't directly Marvel related, but it still did a great job living with the character. You know, every episode there was a stakes of like whose character's gonna die, somebody's gonna die, is Karen gonna die, is Foggy gonna die, you know, like the whole time you're like, oh my god, what's happening? They bring in characters like John Bernthal's Punisher. That whole arc in that show is awesome. The Punisher show in general is awesome with John Bernthal. He's a really good Punisher in my opinion. You know, so things like that. Like, for if this is going to be a season 4 or a season 1 for Born Again, you still can't have him suiting up late in the season, and you can't put him in the advertising for She-Hulk and then have him put in episode 8. But they did that too. You know, that was, I think, the previous guide, Bob Chapek's idea was, okay, everyone's at home, the pandemic, let's just dump everything into these TV shows. And sure, some of the TV shows have been great, but not every single one of them has. And some of the movies have suffered. Some Secret Invasion, you know, we don't even need to talk about that. Like, it's all been a problem. So for them to get to right the boat and steer it in the right direction, I think it's going to be really good. Other than that, some, you know, when they were talking shit about the Daredevil Born Again writers directors, there was also, you know, reports about the writer director quit, you know, or fired from Secret Invasion. That caused problems. And then the writer or director quit for Moon Knight, which, you know, could have caused problems. I think Moon Knight was still a pretty good show. I liked it overall. Also leaked yesterday was an image of the Avengers Tower, the new Avengers Tower that Lego's coming out with. It's going to be 5,201 pieces. It's going to be over $500. But this thing looks massive. It looks cool. It's got tons of minifigures, it looks like. It's going to be awesome. If you guys can see from over here, I have a little Marvel setup over here already. So to add the Avengers Tower to this, I would love that, especially because since Spider-Man Homecoming, we don't know who bought Avengers Tower. So maybe it'll be me. Maybe I'll buy Avengers Tower if I'm not broke as a joke in November. But we'll see. But let's get into it. Loki, Season 2, Episode 2, Breaking Bad. Now, is that a reference to the show Breaking Bad in Heisenberg and Jesse and, you know, Bryan Cranston, Aaron Paul? Maybe. Is that just like what's happening to Loki? He's got to like break bad a little bit. He's got to be the god of mischief a little bit more this episode, maybe. But we start out on the sacred timeline. And I like how they're identifying where we are, right? Because when we went to different timelines or different places in season 1, it was just kind of said the time and, oh, Pompeii, you know, or whatever. Now, because there's a multiverse and there's so many branches, that they're either telling you it's a branch timeline or they're telling you that you're on the sacred timeline still. So they are on the sacred timeline. 1977, London, UK. Mobius and Loki investigating a hit from X5's TenPad, and they are at a Zaniac premiere. Zaniac is in it's like a movie character, also a thing from the comic book. Zaniac was a character. Brad Wolf, aka X5, went back, right? So X5 we seen from the last episode, he was kind of a prick messing with Mobius. Now he goes back and like kind of goes back into his place on the timeline. He's an actor, he's starring in this movie. You know, he's not a hunter anymore, he's just being himself on the timeline. And Brad Wolf, not X5, right? So like X5 and they're all the same thing, but you know, he's no longer going by X5, he's Brad Wolf. And Brad Wolf is a complete douche, and he's super funny this episode, but also like a real prick. Loki, Mobius are suited and booted. I think our boy Tom Hiddleston in this tux here looks great. I love to see him. He was honestly menacing in this. Mobius and Loki walk into this Zaniac premiere, and then they stumble across their boy, X5, Brad Wolf. Brad Wolf was like walking around, oh my god, it's so good to see you, and like being a real movie star, you know, kissing babies type of shit. And you know, he gets cornered by Mobius and Loki. They're like, yeah, we need to talk. And then he takes off running. And then all of a sudden Mobius chasing after him, catches up to him. Brad kind of pushes Mobius up against the wall. And Tom says, no, 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 you don't touch my mans. And throws some magic green beam at him. Sends fucking Brad Wolf into the next dimension. No, not the next dimension, but just sends him down a flight of staircase, and then really hunts his ass down. You know, he corners him, or chases him away, and then Brad like uses a little tempad thing from the first season to like go back in time a little bit, so he goes back to where he previously was. But Loki uses duplication castings to make him all confused, so then he has 3 versions of Tom Hiddleston all cornering Mr. Brad Wolf, and then 2 of them grow horns in the shadows, and they use shadow play to grab both of his arms and kind of pin him. So instead of having 2 of the variants actually grabbing him, they use the shadows to grab him, because he's a sorcerer and he can do that type of shit. And then the intro plays, and I love that little boo-doo-doo, you know, it's like a spooky little like piano, I guess, or like a little chime, or little boo 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 doo 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 doo, you know, and it flashes through the different letters of Loki. It's just such a good, like, the theme songs in the show, the music, the little, like, when Sylvie and Loki see each other again, it gets like that little, you know, like it's like that violin. It's so beautiful. It's awesome. So they arrest X5 by the TVA, B-15, and they're looking at his temp pad that X5 had, and it was like a modified temp pad. So they were like, okay, go down to have OB check that out. And he checks out the temp pad, and he's working on it. They interrogate Brad Wolf. So Brad Wolf is a complete dick during this interrogation. He starts talking real smack, like he's not the one arrested here. He's like, this isn't real. None of us were on the timeline. Mobius, you don't want to know what your actual timeline was like? Loki, oh, you have some nerve saying there's lives at stake. You're the one that used to take lives, which is true. You're the villain here. You're the one that causes the problems. You're the one that kills people. You're the one that is the villain here. You're the god of mischief. You're the one that really is causing the issues here. And then he talks more shit about Mobius, and, oh, you're a little man. Mobius loses his temper, slaps him. I was like, hell yeah, fuck him. Slap the shit out of him, Mobius. Mobius is like, things got a little tense in there, okay? They got a little tense. So they start like walking away, and Loki's like, Mobius, I've never seen you like this. Are you okay? Like, Mobius it's probably mulling over his head. Like, he goes, my only life that I know is here at the TVA. So what if I go back and find myself on the timeline and it's really good and I don't want to leave it? He's like, I don't want that in my head. I don't want that going on. So like, I see where Mobius is going, but also I see where Brad Wolf's coming from, where you're like, it's the whole dilemma. Is pruning a timeline bad? Yes, you're wiping out a version of a person, but the way I see it, the sacred timeline is still a thing, right? Because the branch comes off of the sacred timeline. So when they prune the timeline, it comes back to here. So they still have a chance to make the same decision that they made that branched the timeline in the first place. Or they can go back and continue to live on to the sacred timeline and be the same person. But the way I see it, I'm like, I don't know if it's really murdering people or just eliminating variants of people. You know what I mean? Because I don't think the branch timeline causes new lives. Maybe it does, but like, I think it's causing a new life for somebody. You know what I mean? Like, it's causing a new version of that somebody, right? Like, you know the old saying, when one door closes, another door opens, right? So you come up, walking down the road, you come up to 2 doorways. The branch timeline's on the left, that door's closed, so you take the branch timeline. So you go down the branch timeline, you go through door number 2, but when they prune the timeline, I think it brings you back to those 2 doors. So then you have, it brings you back and you're like, okay, do I make that same decision again and branch the timeline again, or is the sacred timeline door open? I can walk through that one, like, I don't know. It's a dilemma, but just from seeing B-15's face in this episode, she's like, those are all people, like you're like, oh shit, pruning timelines is bad. But the whole time, it's never been like that big a deal in my head. Oh yeah, the timeline got pruned, whatever. As long as Sylvie and Loki don't get pruned and they're gone forever, I'm cool. Because those are my 2 favorite characters in this, Mobius, like, all of them are so cool that I'm like, nah, I'm good. I don't, as long as we don't lose them, everyone else can get pruned, die, whatever. As they mull it over, having a piece of pie, Mobius in this very green pie. It doesn't look very good. I'm a decent fan of key lime pie, but this pie looks too green, too artificial. But Mobius is like, that wasn't very tactical. And Loki starts talking and brings up Tony Stark, brings up the events of Avengers 1. And he goes, you remember when my brother and my father, I was so mad at that I went to New York and held New York City hostage with an alien army? I tried to use the Mind Stone on Tony Stark. It didn't work, so I threw him out the building, which is exactly what happens. You know what I mean? You're like, oh shit, right, this is the same. This Loki did go through the events of Avengers 1. He just didn't go back to Asgard at the end of Avengers 1 and didn't start Thor 2. You know what I mean? Because that's the time place where he got plucked out of time, 2012, right? So this Loki had just done a bunch of bad things as Loki in Avengers 1, but now he's this whole different man where he's got Loki, he's got Mobius, and I really like Jamie Jarax from Phase Zero and other podcasts. She's great, but her theory is that Sylvie and Loki are in love, sure, and that's like where the show's going, is they're showing their love, but they're also each other. So she's like, I think it's more like a throuple, and Loki and Mobius are together, but also Loki and Sylvie are together, so the three of them are together. And I'm like, I like that theory too. That's my headcanon as well. I like Loki and Sylvie together. I'm a sucker for a love story, but Loki and Mobius, I don't know. Loki did say his sexuality was more fluid than anything, so I don't know. Maybe he is a little gay. He leans that way a little bit, but hey, what does it matter, right? Him and Mobius together, they're just the best. You know what I mean? Like every time I see them together, I'm like, yeah, I want more of it. Their chemistry's great. They're great in the show. Whether it's Mobius and Loki or Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson, I like them together. They seem to be having a good time and doing their thing. So Mobius, says to Loki, I think we need a little mischief, and they hatch a plan to go back in and get the information they need from Brad Wolf. And they go back in and Loki interrogates them, and Loki uses this device and talks shit to Brad, and Brad's still talking shit, and he's like, I'm sorry, I talk shit to your mother. And Loki gets real menacing, and he's like, I'm a villain, and gets right above him and starts talking shit. Oh my god, that whole scene where Brad just Loki gets closer and closer, you're like, oh my god, is Loki about to break bad all over again? Oh my god. But he definitely gets a little testy. He puts this man in a box, and this is terrible. This is the box is closing in. Like a mime. He had to just keep getting closed in by this box, and then you just get smushed to death. Ugh. That box scene I was like, god damn, are we about to just see this guy get smushed into nothing? Ooh. But he gives us the information about Sylvie, and then we go to McDonald's, Broxton, Oklahoma, 1982. Sylvie serving on the timeline. She was smiling, she was happy, and she sees Loki, and now all frowns. And Loki goes, we need to talk. Can we talk? She's like, my break's in 5 minutes. So then they go outside, they start talking, and Loki the whole time is just it's the whole time Tom Hiddleston's he's heavy breathing, so you kind of feel either Tom Hiddleston's having lung problems and heart problems and he's having trouble breathing, or his heart feels so heavy when he's around Sylvie, right? I really felt his pain. I was like, he's having trouble finding the words to say, but he's so happy to just be near her again, just to be in the same area. But at the same time, there's problems going on at the TVA. The whole thing's falling apart. Everything's falling apart because of what they did together, and more specifically what Sylvie did, killing He Who Remains. But Sylvie kicked Loki out, so she's mad at Loki, but at the same time she seems to still listen to him. I love this little mullet that Sophia DiMartino's got, this little party in the front but more party in the back, or business in the front, party in the back, you know what I'm saying? And I really like the haircut she's got, but the whole time she's listening, talking, she's like, oh, you can see the future now, cool. She's sipping on her drink, talking shit at the same time. She's very sassy in this scene. I really like it. She just keeps holding the drink. She's like, what are you talking? You talking shit? And then, we cut to Brad Wolf and Mobius. Mobius is getting his apple pie and having a little, he goes, yeah, I really thought this was a trap, but, what you set us up for was a great meal, wow. But I love, like, Loki and her are talking shit outside, and Loki's like, this is what makes you happy, this is really what's going on, but what you're getting is from the view from the table from Brad Wolf and Mobius, and like it's like Mobius's live reaction right now is what we're seeing. And I like that the different cameras angles they use, but then they also cut back to Mobius talking to Brad Wolf, and he's like, hey, what's going on with you? What was Zaniac? That looked scary. He goes, it's not horror, it's something thriller, it's a explosive thriller or whatever he called it. And he goes, it's cinema, thank you very much. You know, like, which is what I think Loki season 1 is. It's cinema. But I love Mobius is talking about Sylvie and Loki, and he's like, it's a complicated relationship. You're pretty much having a relationship with yourself. You know what I mean? Like, so he goes, they say opposites attract. No, they don't. You know, they're both the same person, really, but they're different genders, I guess. You know, one female Loki, male Loki, but then they fall for each other. I really like that, but at the same time, it is kind of weird, because you're like, yeah, you did just fall in love with yourself, didn't you, bub? X5 gets a little jumpy. He gets a little, all right, we got to get the fuck out of here. We got to, what? And he's like, why do we have to get out of here? We're having McDonald's. What's wrong with here? And he's like, uh-oh. So he kind of like screws himself, and they're like, something's going on. And Sylvie uses her enchantment on X5, Brad Wolf, and sees his memories and sees that Dox is bombing. You know, they were supposed to stop pruning timelines, and Dox, Kate Dickie, Liza Aaron from Game of Thrones, she is bombing the timelines and pruning all these timelines to get back to the sacred timeline. And she almost gets away with it. She prunes quite a few timelines. But Loki and Mobius and Sylvie show up trying to stop it. I thought there was going to be a lot more epic fight scene here, but it was kind of quick, but also kind of got done what it needed to do. Sylvie does a quick little outfit change back into her like warrior outfit with, you know, you can see her, it's like, kind of like connected by pins and needles, like she's been just keeping herself together all this time. But they start fighting, they start doing their thing, and she goes, don't overthink it. And her and Loki both together push out this green blast of energy and take out everybody else. But then they have to go back to the TVA, and Mobius goes, Loki, we gotta go. And Loki looks at her and walks through this time door. And I love the sequence, because you see him walk through the time door, he disappears, but the camera keeps going, so you're just kind of like, oh, this is where he would be if he didn't walk through the time door. But just like season 1, where Sylvie walked through a time door and Loki followed her, Loki walks through a time door and Sylvie follows him back to the TVA after she said, I'm not going back there. And she ends up going back there, and it's a tough scene, because she was able to prune quite a few timelines, almost all of them. There's what, 1, 2, 3, maybe remnants of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 timelines, but it was going crazy. There was tons of timelines. Now there's only like 9, and you see B-15's like, those were all people. And Loki's hurt. You see Sylvie walk through, she's hurt, and she's like, this is the best you guys can do. She's pissed. She's crossing her arms. She's like, this is the best you guys can do? What the hell? Loki walks up to Mobius, grabs him on the shoulder. He's like, oh man, like he feels hurt, because now this is his new family. Like his family here is now B-15, Mobius, OB, Casey. Like he's now made himself this little family in the TVA, and like he's got this whole new life. He's not the god of mischief that we once knew, but I hope we get back to that, because he's great character. Tom Hiddleston's one of the best actors in the business doing it, and he has so much fun in the role. Like it's just fun seeing him. But this one scene where Sylvie's about to walk away, she's like, this is the best you can do? I'm going back to my timeline if it's still there. And Loki's like, please, please stay. It's harder to stay. And she had already left, and he's like, it's harder to stay. And he kind of looks down, he's sad. She walks out on him again. So now she goes back, and she's sitting on the hood of her car looking at this thing. And, Jack, the manager, walks out, and she goes, your mom on the way, Jack. Do you need a ride home? He's like, no, I'm good. Thank you, though. And walks away. But Sylvie's at McDonald's, and she's sitting there, and then it kind of pulls into her tighter as she's sitting on the hood of the truck. And they kind of zoom in on her sitting there, and she's holding He Who Remains Tempad from the final episode of the last season. So what does that mean? Like, is she now going to go back to the TVA? She can go pretty much anywhere she wants. This isn't a normal tempad. This is He Who Remains tempad. So we saw him pull up like little goo and show things with this tempad. We saw him teleport with this tempad because he had preset little things. So when Sylvie would swing at him, he would like glitch out of there. So I don't know. We know Victor Timely's going to be in this, but you know, my main questions coming out of this one is, What's Sylvie up to with that tempad that he Who Remains had? Is it wrong to prune timelines? And they need Miss Minutes back. So, you know, we heard them say earlier in the episode, OB was talking to Casey and Hunter B-15. If we don't get her back, it's not going to be possible to continue to run this timeline because the loom's going to explode or whatever. The multiverse is just going to break into madness. And, you know, so they need her back. They need to fix the loom so that it can account for more branching timelines, because you saw it. It was all crazy over here, and they were all feeding it to this thing. And then even, you know, it was a tight wound rope over here, but even that rope started to unwind a little bit. So it's like the TVA is really struggling right now. So what they need is He Who Remains back, or someone with that power. So they either need Loki and Sylvie to step up, or all these variants of Kang are going to come back, and that's not going to be good. But we know Victor Timely comes into play, so maybe they go back in time in the next episode. They go back even further to when we see in the trailers with he and Ravonna Renslayer and like this fair from like 1913 or something, I believe. That might be wrong, but comment below if you know the details better than I do. But overall, what did you guys think of this Loki Season 2 episode? I'm super hyped. This episode, this season, Tom Hiddleston, Owen Wilson, I really love everything that they're doing. I love this time of year, especially for it. You know, right? You're getting Loki sorcery, but you're also getting this weird show. But it's also right around this Halloween time. I got my Werewolf by Night shirt on, so maybe I'll watch that tonight. Comment below, what are your favorite spooky movies? Friday the 13th. What are you watching tonight? Are you going to watch some Halloween movies? Are you going to watch some spooky movies? Are you going to go out with your friends and go drinking? Hey, power to you. Do whatever you want. To each his own. Me personally, I'm a movie guy. I don't like to go out drinking and feel terrible on a Saturday morning, go out Saturday night, drink again, feel terrible on Sunday morning. That's just not me anymore. I did that enough when I was young. Now, I'm still young, but I like to, you know, smoke and relax a little bit, do my thing. So comment below, what are you doing tonight on Friday the 13th? What's on your list for Halloween movies? Comment those down below. I need some movie recommendations. We got more Marvel rewatch movies coming up. I watched Blade Trinity last night, so finally got my Blade trilogy done. I watched Into the Spider-Verse the other day, and next up on the list is Endgame, Far From Home, Dark Phoenix, and then Black Widow. So we're heading into the Phase 4. We're ending out the Infinity Saga with Endgame, Far From Home. Real fun stuff. So stay tuned till next week. We'll be talking more Loki episode 3, and I really love you guys. If you've made it this far in the video, please like, subscribe, follow my other social medias, link down in the description below. I will see you in the next video. Peace.